redevelopment, residential, commercial. I won't put industrial in it because that's a little too much of mixed use. But when we don't know what may be coming down the pike. Do we want to keep it at least as an opportunity for mixed use? Think of it as something similar, not on this scale, but something along the lines of a Port Warwick that could come in again in another redeveloped area. Or, I mean, I don't know if do we want to pigeonhole ourselves and limit it just to a neighborhood or a residential area? And I get what Michael F. is saying about, do we want to keep studying and studying and I get that part, but the mixed use component, we don't really know what some of this may be. It could be mixed use, so are we limiting ourselves by not keeping it in mixed use?
Susan, can I ask you a question about that? So with mixed use, is that, does that enable one to do public-private partnerships, for example, whereas park does not? I'm not sure what.
I'm not an attorney, so I am not offering any opinion on land use law. But my understanding of public-private partnerships, having worked on those too, is that's not limited by land use designation or a zoning category. I think that's on a case-by-case, project-by-project basis, devoid of any land use or zoning designations.
So by choosing park
There are a
versus
lot of
mixed
hands up. I'm
use-
trying to keep them all in the air. But, I mean, I'll get to them. That's okay. Finish on. Dawn, finish your statement. Then there was Beth and Rodney. Okay, we're going to get there. Go.
So there is a disadvantage to calling it park versus no disadvantage to calling it mixed use?
What is the it?
The designation?
I mean,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Let's back up. I think the way it was laid out, planning opportunity areas is in the wrong place. Planning opportunity areas, if you remember, we're talking about, we're an older city. We have areas where disinvestment has happened. We're not sure exactly what's going to happen because it needs to be done at a more detailed level, more than what the comp plan can do. And it would involve the citizens from that area coming up with whatever that plan is. Those areas would be identified on the map. Not as an overlay, but just identified on the map. And I think it being put under mixed use, it just was put in the wrong category. Because the categories of our designations are residential, mixed use, meaning mixed use would just be mixed use in this transit focus area, commercial, neighborhood, community, regional. Then we have research and development and office. Then we have industrial. Then we have civic and open space, which includes your community facilities, your parks and recreation, your natural area open spaces. Then you have utilities, transportations, government, military.
Thank you.
So, I'll have to say what?
hold on one second. Beth, sorry, she's.
I was going to say, I did like the description of overlay if it's in its own section, because that is telling you that underneath it, it needs to have one of those designations. It has to have a land use designation so that when it comes to planning and we have to change the land use, we don't change it out of a study group, we would be changing it out of residential or community or open area. Does that make sense? So that it is sitting over top of a land use.
Well, that was going to be my question. If it's designated as a study area, does that mean that there's a land use
There should be a
applied
land
to it?
use
And
underneath.
I don't know that that's the case. What
Well,
is the
right
case?
now there is,
Yes.
because right now what you would do is it's applied to what you currently have. That would stay until that study is started.
So
Once
if a
they
piece of
finish-
property is
Right.
designated right now as commercial neighborhood, but then you put a study area over it.
Okay, say you take a larger area. Let's say let's just, for an example, let's just say, okay,
Lee Hall.
Lee Hall.
Lee Hall, Hill, any of them, Lee Hall, any of the areas that we identified. Right now, they all currently have a designation. Under this planning area, that designation would stay until that plan has started, meaning that whatever group is assembled to study that area in more detail, they would make the recommendations that would then change that land use.
So they would recommend, go through the same process we're doing now, recommend,
Just a second.
goes
Mike's
to planning with a public meeting, goes to city council with a public meeting, just like what we're doing now, for anything to change on the plan.
Right.
You have to go through all those steps to get changed.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
But it's at a smaller,
Smaller group of people.
right.
Well, smaller
Okay.
scale.
So
Smaller
Mike had a
scale.
comment.
Well, if you read the whole thing, it says what? It's identified as a redevelopment area. Okay, just say it. It's almost like a placeholder. All right, we've got this land, we don't want to know what to do with it. Let's tag it as a redevelopment area. Just hold it there. Because for future study use. It says it right there, okay? Areas that have been identified as a redevelopment area, period. Call planning opportunity area for redevelopment areas. It appears to me anyhow, the way I see it, okay. Here we go, we got this land. It's up in the air, let's go ahead and give it a tag, redevelopment area, period. Set it aside, move on. Come back and pick it up.
Okay. Rodney, and then Michael.
So it sounds like this is something that we had done a while ago with the Camp Morrison area. You know how that was determined to be a redevelopment area. Is that similar? Is that?
I'm being told by
No,
staff.
no. It's similar to the Lee Hall area that we want to do a neighborhood plan for. And it's similar to the Hilton area. They're described in the plan. If you go to pages, start on 125 and it continues through,
Because there is a section that explains what these areas are.
Currently.
right,
Yeah.
through 130. So it identifies certain areas where we have seen some decline, perhaps in how they currently are. And we want to consider doing some further study of that area. That doesn't mean you don't have land use designations underneath, because you do. There's another layer, and what your comprehensive plan is saying is, we'd like to study these in greater detail with neighborhood plans. And other areas in our region have done that. Hampton, for instance, has done that. They have neighborhood plans. That's how, you see certain developments happening.
I will give you an example. The current Framework for the Future identifies the Southeast community as an area that needed a area plan. One was done. At the time, it had land use designations. When we prepared that plan, adopted that plan through city council, that became the land use for that particular area. That is the plan that you go to.
Okay. I think we're up to Michael F.
I believe we are. So, from a general perspective, I am very much in favor of more citizen input rather than less. So, when Angela was saying what we do and kind of laid out the plan, one of the first things you said was, citizen input, citizen meetings. Okay, is that in writing, or is that what you hope happens? Because that's a big difference. If it's in writing,
Okay.
if it's in writing, if it's in writing, then the process which we seem to be missing for a certain property out there is already laid out.
Okay. You made
If
a
it's
good
not
point.
in writing,
We
then we shouldn't be saying that's what we're going to do unless you put it in writing,
Can we redefine planning opportunity area?
right?
Take a look at it.
I'm told that staff will take.
I don't know.
I'll look at it again. I really don't know.
The process, Susan, you mean?
I
The
thought
actual
that
process?
somewhere in here, it was mentioned that there would be, maybe I'm imagining it,
No, you're not.
but I could have sworn that I read that somewhere, and I'll keep going through it.
Let us find it,
and then
and I apologize. I've read through it, but
I
I
can't remember now.
can't pinpoint it at the moment.